Inside our node database file, I'm going to create two new methods. First one is called get node, which will return only one node, and second one is get nodes, which will return the list of nodes. So these both methods are required to return the respective nodes. So once we are displaying the details, we need to get only single nodes and its details. But when we are displaying the list of nodes in RecyclerView, we need all the nodes that are present in the database, so that we can display that in our RecyclerView. Okay, so first I'm going to write this method. So this will be of this will return the node. Okay, so public, it will return the node and get node, and it will take the ID as a argument. So we will pass the node ID, and based on that ID we are going to retrieve. Okay, so the SQL query for this retrieving the single node is select all from database name where ID equals to whatever we have passed ID, right? That will be 1, 2, or 3. So it will display, it will retrieve the data from the database where ID is 1. So just like that, we are going to write the SQLite version of this query here, and we are going to pass this query to the database and retrieve the data and return that node to the caller. Okay, so whoever is calling that node. So first thing we need to do is we need to create the instance of our database. So that is SQLite database db equals to this dot get writable database, because we are get readable database here, since we are going to read the data from the database. Okay, so now we need to use cursor for this, because cursor is a pointer that point to the current database, current data in the table, right? Current row of the data in the table. So if you don't know about cursor and the database, then you can search in Google. The quick search will give you all the information required for the cursor. So for simplicity, you can understand cursor is a pointer that points to the specific row in the database column or database table column. Okay, so we need to use cursor equals to we are going to query our database, so we are going to use query method db.query. Inside this, now we need to pass few arguments like columns, string selection area, and selection arguments, and all other things like group by, having, and order by things. Okay, so I'll pass that now. So first thing we need to pass is table name. So we have database table as our table name. Second thing we're going to pass is database columns. So that columns are key title. So we need to create new string of our data, new string array of our data, so that will be key title. We'll also retrieve the ID, so key ID, key title, key content, key date, key time. So these are the columns names. Now we need to pass the selection criteria. So the selection criteria will be based on the ID. So we'll pass key ID as our selection, and plus equals to this question mark. This will prevent the SQL injection. Okay. So now we need this. We need to pass the arguments now. So key arguments. This argument will replace this question mark. Okay. So for that we also need to create new string array, since we can pass multiple arguments. So let me just break this line, and here we'll pass the arguments. So string dot value of ID that we have passed through these arguments. So we'll use this, and also we need to pass few other things. Group by is null, having is null, and order by is also null. So this will complete our query for the retrieval of the data. And now we need to execute this. So if if cursor is not null, we are going to return the data. Okay, so cursor always start from the -1, so we need to move to the first position. So cursor dot move to first, or move to first. Okay, so now we need to return our data. So we need to create node, new node. We need to create new node and set the data from the database to the node, and we will return that node to the whoever is calling. Okay, so new node, and now we need to use the constructor that is having ID as well, because we are retrieving from the database, not inserting. Okay, so now we'll set we'll retrieve the data using cursor, I said, right? So cursor dot, the first thing we want is ID, so that is of type long, right? So we'll retrieve that using cursor dot get long, and that will be our column number is 0. Okay, the second is, since it is a long, that's why I use that get long method. For string we'll use string method. Okay, get string method, cursor dot get string, and that is 1. Same thing, cursor dot get string of 2, cursor dot get string of 3, cursor dot get string of 4. Those are the total data. Okay, so this will set the ID, this will set the title, this will set the details, date and time. Now we need to return the data, so we can return the note. Okay, so if you click on this and valve, it's a we can convert this to inline variable. So if you click on this, it will convert this to inline variable, so it is much better and efficient. Okay, so you do that. So this method is complete. It will return this single note. Just like that, now we need to return the list of nodes. While if somebody called the get nodes method, we will return the all the nodes that is present inside our Lite database, right? So for that, I'm going to write this method, and it will return the list of method. Okay, so list of type nodes. I'm using generic type here. So this is called a generic list. Okay, so because I'm specifying the node as here, so if I don't give anything, it may return anything. So I need to import this, import class. So list of nodes. Okay, so our get node do not give any argument inside this, because we are not selecting based on any criteria, but we are retrieving all the data that is present in the database column, database table. So we don't need to pass anything here. So this is the same thing. So simply call this, create the instance of SQLite database. After that, we need to create a list of type generic type node. I'll call it all nodes, and it will be of type new array list. Okay, now we need to use the query to select all the data from the table. So that is, if I write raw query, that will be select all, star means all, from a database, that is database name. Okay, so here we are not specifying any condition like where, right? So it will retrieve all the row present in that current database column. So I'll write this in the required format, string of query select all from and the database name, database table. Okay, table name. So now I need to execute this. since this is a relatively different query from this cursor query that we used here, so we need to call different execute query method. Okay, so for that db we need to create the cursor. So cursor that will hold our data, and now I need to call raw query method since we are using a raw query here, and I'll pass the query, and I also need to pass the null for the selection arguments because we are not passing any arguments. Okay, so here if I need to check the same condition, if cursor is not null, that means we have some data in our cursor. If it is null, then we don't have anything and we need to display the error, right? So if it is not null, I'm going to retrieve all the data and pass that to our all nodes list view. So for that I can use while loop. Okay, while the cursor dot move to next move. Here it is better to use do while because do while run at least once. Okay, so move cursor dot move to next. Now I'm going to create new node and set the data from the cursor. Okay, so note equals new node. Here we are going to use empty constructor because we are going to manually set the data. So node dot set id. Inside this I'm going to set the cursor dot get long and the 0 because it is the long value. Our id is long value. Now node dot set title cursor dot get string of 1 that have our node title. Set content cursor dot get string of column index 2 that have our node content. Dot set date cursor dot get string of column index 3 that contains our node date, and node dot get set time. We'll finally set the time of our node that was retrieved from the cursor. So cursor dot get string last column name is 4. So now this node object have all the value required for the nodes. Now we can add this node to our list view. So all nodes dot add, and we'll pass the node. So at the end of this do while loop, our all nodes list will have all the data that is present inside our table, and we can return that to the caller method. So we'll return all nodes. Okay, this will complete our these two method that will return the data from the database. Now we can start using this our main activity to display the data into the recycler view. Now this is finally time to display the data into our recycler view. Now we'll use get nodes method to get all the data present in the table, and we'll display that into the recycler view. But our recycler view need adapter, so let's create the adapter first. So I'm going to go into my package name and create new Java class, call it adapter, and our adapter will extend the recycler view dot adapter, and inside this we need to pass the view holder. So if you guys are not familiar with these recycler view things and adapter, I have created other video and posted in the channel before, so you can go and check that, and you can even learn by creating that story app where I have used CRUD view and recycler view, so that you will get much better idea. Otherwise you can just follow along here with me, and I'm going to do the same thing. So Okay, so our view holder have these three method. Our recycler view adapter have these three method that we need to override. And before that, let me create the view holder class first. Public class view holder, and it will also extend RecyclerView dot view holder. And here also we need to override few method. So I'll click on this ball, and here we need to override, create the constructor which calls the super constructor. Okay, so before doing anything, we need to do few things. Okay, we need a custom layout for this adapter. So let's create that in our layout file. Go to layout, create layout resources, and here I'm going to create new custom list view. Okay, so our custom list view will have card view, and using card view we can display our data in the recycler view in much better ways, right? So I'm going to drag and drop the card view from the container here, and inside this card view we are going to have constraint view. It will match parent. I'm going to set both as match parent, and inside this I'm going to have two extra constant view. We don't need to use this two constant view, but it is more easier if I use that. So I'm going to create two more constant view inside this, one for image and one for the content. Okay, let me copy this first and paste inside. Okay, now what I need to do here is, inside this first constant view I'm going to put the image view which will contain the image of our note. So for demo I'm just going to use this sample image here. So I'm going to set the top and left constant first, and right and left also. So for this constant I'm going to give wrap content for both layout height and width, so that it will get wrapped inside. And inside this another constant view I'm going to add two text view. So let me add that, and second one, the first one is for title and second one is for the date, and we also need third one for the time. Okay, so this constant view is here, right? So I'm going to maintain this constant. I'll just make this wrap content as width, or I'll just make it as match constant. Okay, so let me set the constant. Okay, and set the bottom constant to the bottom and set the top constant, and let me match constant in both area. Okay, now it is much better. And for this also, for this constant also. Okay, now let me drag and drop this. It will be much easier instead of adding that in the beginning. Okay, let me set this to match constant, and in the right I'll set 16 as a constant. Okay, so this is, let me set it as sample note title, and let me change the color to probably black. Okay, and it will be of 18 sp and bold, and let me drag and drop two text field for date and time. This is for date and this one is for time. So let me set the constant to this constant to this, and this to the last. Okay, and now I'll just align this using baseline. Okay, so that they'll display. Okay, I'll just make it as mass constraint or maybe wrap content, and set the top constant, and now I can slide this. Okay, now I can set here. Okay, now it is showing. Okay, this is the date and this is the time. Okay, so I'll change the font size little bit. I'll make it as 16 sp so that it will look much bigger than it is right now. 16 sp. Okay, so let me fix the. Okay, okay, so this is the custom layout for our recycler view. So let me set the right ID for this. So this is note title. I'll just call it end title. This one is end date, and this one is end time. Okay, I'll set the constant for the card view as well, and this constant layout will have a height of wrap content, and I'll also set this constant. Okay, a little bit up, and that's much better. Now I'll give padding. So let me go here, and for this I'll give padding of 5 dp so that it will look much better. And our card view, this constraint will have padding of 5 dp as well. Okay, so it will look better. Yeah, and I'll just set the background so that I can distinguish between this. So this is, I'll just change the background a little bit to more white. Maybe that is fine. Okay, so this is the layout we are going to use for this. So let me go to the editor, and here we'll set the layout and text field and so on. Now we need a few variables, so let me start by creating them. So we need a layout inflator. We also need a list view that will contain our note. I'll just simply call it as notes. And okay, so I'll create the view first. So view, this will use our custom view to inflate our list of nodes. Inflator, inflate resources r.id dot r.layout dot custom list view, and second thing we'll pass is view group, and third thing we pass is false. We are not going to attach to the root. Okay, So now we need to return our new view with view holder. So new view holder, I will pass the newly created view. Okay, this is how we are going to bind our custom list view to the recycler view. But we also need constructor for this adapter so that we can pass the data like context for the inflator and the nodes, that list of data, okay, from MainActivity to the adapter, so that we can display that in the recycler view. So this will take the context as the argument, and inside this we are going to set our inflator. This dot inflator equals to layout inflator dot from context, and we'll also set the nodes from the our node. Okay, so we'll pass the list of nodes as a argument here. Yeah, that will set the data. Now here we need to return the count, so we are going to return the count, length of the size of the nodes. And now we need to start binding our data. So what does that mean is we are going to retrieve the data from these nodes list view, and we are going to set the data to our title, date and time field using the this view holder. So we need to create variable of text view and title and details, and we have like and date and title, sorry, time, right? So now we need to set the resources for this text view. And title, we have and title resources, so we need to use item view dot find view by id r.id and title. Okay, and details equals to item view dot find view by id at the by id r.id and detail or and content. Oh, and date item view dot find view by Okay, so I just realized we don't need to use this details because we are not displaying any details in our recycler view. We are just displaying three things, that is title, date and time, right? So now we need to set the title, date and time in our onBind view holder. So this means we are going to bind our text view with the data that we have retrieved from the database that is already stored in our nodes, right? So here first I'm going to create few string for title, date and time. So that will get from nodes dot get I is the position, and now we can call our setter and getter here. Okay, so we need to get title. For the title, string date nodes that get, pass the integer, and we need to get the date. Just like that we can get our time from the node that we have retrieved from the database, get time. Okay, so now we can bind this to our text view. So we need to use view holder dot and title dot set text. Okay, so here I'm going to set title view holder dot and details, and we don't need details. I'm confused. And date, set text, and time dot set text to the time. Okay, now we can go to our main activity where we can set this adapter to our recycler view. So recycler view dot set layout manager, new linear layout. We need to create new linear layout. And we'll pass this as a context. Now we'll create the adapter. So let me create the adapter variable here first. Adapter. Simply called it adapter. Now new adapter. So inside this we need to pass two things, that is context, and we also need to pass the list of nodes that we have retrieved from the database, but we have not done that yet. So let me create the list view of type generic type nodes. Sorry, it is only list, and let me import that. Now here I can simply call the database get nodes method, but first we need a database. So node database db equals to new node database. We'll pass the context. Now I can use this db variable db dot get nodes, and it will have all the nodes in that table. Now I can pass the nodes here. Instead of writing all these things, we can just pass this db dot nodes here. It's your choice. Now I'll set the adapter. Set adapter to adapter. Okay. Now we'll be able to display the list of nodes that we have created in our list view. So let's see if we have successfully done that or not. Okay, we are getting an error. Let's see what is that. Go to error, let's delete this, and it is saying it says cursor is out of bound. Okay, so let me check what is the problem. So in 93, okay, I found the mistake. As I said, cursor start with -1 index, right? So here I'm not going to the I'm not moving to the first index, so that's why it is giving us error. So instead of this, I can use move to first. Okay, move to first method here. If I call this, it will go to the first, and then it will start first item in the database table, and then it will start executing this do while method. So let me run this app. Okay, here you can see the database is returning the data, but it is showing only one item. So we'll see what happened here. It is also not showing the title. So let me check. Okay, so this error might be in our node. And if I go here, I can see that instead of title, I have passed the time. Okay, so that's the mistakes. That's why we are not able to retrieve the title in our recycler view. Okay, now let me run this app, and we should be able to see the title. I'm still not getting the title. Okay, I'm not getting the title still. So let me check this by using the log. So if I run this app again, and if I see in the log view, we'll be able to see if I'm getting the title or not. So here you can see I'm getting null as a title. It is maybe because I have added that note before setting this title, fixing this title here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add new note now and see if that's going to display the title or not. So we can save. Still we have not to make this refreshable, so it is not showing. So I need to close this app and I'll just reopen it, and it is not showing others. Okay. Okay, and also in the node database, in add node function, here you might have noticed before while I'm writing this, here I also write time instead of title. So let me fix this. So now we have already inserted few data, so that will display, that won't display the title because they have already inserted as null as a title. So I'll run this app and I'll try to add new note, and we'll see if it will display the note's title or not. Okay, so let me do that. Okay, so now I'm going to add new title here. So I'll write something just to test. So go back, close the app, and scroll to the last. Now you can see it is showing this title, date, and time, right? So let me fix this layout problem first. So go to activity note, and here activity custom list view, and here I need to fix few things. Okay, so this have match parent, I'll just make it the wrap content, and instead of giving padding here, I'm going to remove padding from this. Okay, and I'll just keep padding somewhere here 10 dp. Okay, or 20 dp. It will give 10 dp here, and I'll give padding for this one as well, 5 dp. I'll just remove this constant. And also instead of this image, I'm going to use some custom image for that. So I have downloaded one note image. Okay, this one. So let me copy this, and I'll paste this into the drawable folder. Paste. I'll just simply name it as note, and now I'm going to change this. Instead of that, fix the constant, and I'll just give the height as 40 dp and width as 40 dp. Okay, it's a little bit small, so I'll give 64 dp, and okay, now it looks fine. Okay, let me remove this bottom constant from the CRUD view, and now it should work fine. Let's see, let's run the app. Okay, now you can see that we have these notes. These all are not showing title because I added these notes before fixing that problem. So now to remove this, I'll simply change the database name and database title here so that we can reset it. Okay, so I'll just name it as note tables, and these are node dbs. Okay, now if I run this app, we won't be having anything in our main activity because our database is empty. Okay, so let me show you. Yes, it is empty, but I'm going to add new title now, title, and new details. So now if I save this and if I close this app and reopen it, it should display the note here. Yes. Okay, so you saw that we need to close this app and open it again, right? So instead of doing that, I'm going to refresh this main activity when we click on the check button, right? So for that, I'm going to write a method in main activity instead not in main activity, in add node activity class. Here, instead of calling this on back pressed, I'm going to call go to main method. Okay, and this go to main I need to create will have the intent that will go back to the main activity. So let me pass the context and main activity the class. Now I'll simply start the activity with this intent. Okay, so now each time when we add the new node, we don't need to close our app. So let me run the app and show you the demo. Okay, let me go to the add activity. Now I'll just click on save. Now it will display the new. Okay, so this is how we add and retrieve the data from the database. So now we can, now what I want to implement is when somebody click on this, they'll be redirected to the activity detail method, and there will give the option to edit and delete the note.